So a very warm welcome to you. My name's Phil Calvert. Really appreciate you joining me today, taking time out of your day. I promise you will get something of value. As I said, I'm recording this session today, so I'll make sure that everybody gets a copy as well. So I'm going to share a few slides and we'll just dive straight in. So let's just move everybody around a bit so I can see you. And hopefully we can see that. So just give me a thumbs up or a yes in the chat just to make sure you can see that. Thumbs up or a yes in the chat. Fantastic. Good, good, good. Excellent. Great. Fantastic. Nice to see you. So thank you very much for joining me. Really appreciate it. Today we're going to look at marketing. Those of you who are members of my Facebook group of financial advisors will probably have noticed that lead generation is one of those topics that just keeps coming up time and time again. Now, I've been in this industry for quite a long time, so I've kind of seen the good, the bad, and the very ugly of financial advisor marketing. The bad really is ugly, but the good really is incredible. And I'm going to show you a couple of things today, one of which is a marketing piece used by what I think is the most successful financial advisor that I've ever met in over 40 years. And yet it's the simplest piece of marketing that is imaginable. And you'll look at it and you go, you know, why didn't I think of that? So we'll get to that, but we're going to put it in its context of scorecards. Now, scorecards, you hear quite a lot of people talking about them these days. We're not quite sure what they are, so we're going to talk about what scorecards are, how they work, why they're important, and why they're important in the context of the way financial advisor marketing has developed over the years. And so we're going to go back to the late 70s to have a look at what financial advisors were doing then and see what was going well, what wasn't going well, and what's still going well out of all of that. So let's press on. Very, very briefly, for those of you I've not met, I've been in the industry for 42 years, 22 years as with providers, companies like Zurich Life, you probably know, Permanent Insurance, you might have heard of. And I started out as we called them inspectors back then, but broker consultants today, broker reps, whatever they like to call themselves. Was head of national accounts for Zurich, head of sales and marketing for a couple of other life offices as well. Eventually made redundant, so took the check and thought it's time to go out, see what life is like on the other side. And for the last 20 years, I've been an independent consultant. And I guess what I really do, what I enjoy doing most of all, is helping businesses in highly regulated environments to handle digital marketing. So I do work with accountants, lawyers, I do a fair bit in pharma as well, but mostly with financial advisors. And over the last 40 years, I've presented to over 1 million financial professionals around the world. Here's 5,000 of them at a conference in Johannesburg. And my goodness, I am looking forward to getting up in front of groups of financial advisors once again. Zoom is great. I think we've all had to adopt these online ways of presenting, but getting in front of people is important. Now, periodically, I might mention a book that I recommend, and this is the first time I'm going to do this. A book I strongly recommend, it's not one of my books, a book called Digital Body Language by Erica Dawn. It is absolutely fascinating. And it goes into the sort of psychology of, you know, how we respond to emails, you know, the sort of stress that comes with when you get a really abrupt message from someone, and you're not sure whether they're just in a hurry or maybe you've annoyed them in some way. This book really looks at how we communicate in the digital world. So everything from email through to how we present ourselves online. And this is important because, you know, if we're doing more and more work with clients over Zoom or Teams or Skype or something like that, it's important that this is a skill we need to get right. So do check out that book. It is absolutely fantastic. Okay, so scorecards. What is a scorecard? Well, let's put it another way. Let's ask this question in another way. What if I was to ask you, how useful would it be to know the name and financial planning situation of everyone who visits your website? Do you think that might be quite a useful thing to know? because most financial advisors don't even know how many people are visiting their website, let alone the names and addresses and whether or not they are relevant to that particular business. Now, it's really interesting, and I know the answer is yes, that would be useful. And I did a survey in our Facebook group, and I asked financial advisors in there, regardless of where you receive a lead from, to what extent do you have to go and get more information before you can decide whether or not it's a client you can work with? And look, almost everybody said, yeah, we almost always need to get more information. So wouldn't it be useful if we could get to a point where the visitors to our website pretty well filled out a fact find in advance, and they did it willingly without being asked to, and would give you all. Does that sound like the Holy Grail? It does. Well, I'm going to show you a way to make that happen today, but in a way that also will help you to attract clients, to generate higher quality clients, to get better referrals, and to use a scorecard, not just as a lead gen tool. I often pitch it as a lead gen tool, but the more I look at these things, the more I realize actually they have many, many more uses in a financial advisor's business, to the extent that the thing becomes an asset of your business and something that you really need to be proud of. So what a scorecard is fundamentally a question, answer, and analysis tool, which sits on the pathway that people follow when they're looking for advisors. So we know that even if someone gets a referral or a recommendation from a friend, they'll still go and check them out online, and they'll go and visit a whole bunch of different websites. And a scorecard is a tool that is visible in Google search results, so is part of the process that people will use to choose whether or not they'll go with a particular financial advisor. At the same time, when they go through your scorecard, and a scorecard is, call it a quiz if you like, call it a survey, call it an assessment, whatever you want to call it, it's a question, answer, and analysis tool. Your scorecard asks the questions, your website visitor answers the questions, they get a score and some commentary. You get all their data. And the score and the commentary is really, really valuable to them, but we'll explore more about this along the way. And when someone's been through your scorecard, this creates enormous curiosity in what you do. It gives you amazing data to help you choose which clients you want to work with. And I know for a fact that most financial advisors, you don't just want leads shoveled into your business day upon day, because A, you can't deal with them all, and B, there'll be a lot of dross in there as well. So what this tool does is to help you filter out the dross before you even contact them for the first time. So it gives you the ability to follow up with personalized messaging. So you can see the answers to the questions that they gave, and that means you've got conversation points, talking points that you can follow people up with. And this is a bold statement, but as a result of going through a scorecard, you will get the most highly qualified leads you'll ever have. It is as simple as that. But we're going to talk a bit more about that and explain how that works. So a bit of an agenda, how financial advisor marketing and lead generation is changing, the problem with current financial advisor websites, and I know some of you are already thinking, oh my goodness, have I got to ditch your website? No, you haven't. And how scorecards are literally changing everything from here on in. When we get into the detail of scorecards, we've got a bit more of an agenda. So what exactly is a scorecard? How to come up with a theme, the questions that you might ask, what the results page looks like, how you would follow them up, other ways to use your scorecard, and then marketing your scorecard as not just a lead gen tool, but as an asset of your business. So let's go back in time. Let's go back to 1978. I had, well, it would have been around now, actually. Around now in 1978, I'd finished, done my A-levels. I wasn't going to university. As far as I was concerned, I was going to be a rock concert photographer. Throughout my teens, I had loved getting press passes. Photography was in my family. My younger brother is the UK's top family portrait photographer. So photography was in our blood, and this is what I wanted to do. And my dad said to me, so what are you actually going to do for a living? Because you're not going to be a rock concert photographer. That's kind of what he said. He said, you've got to get a proper job. But this is the sort of stuff I was doing, and I used to go to the Hammersmith Odeon. Used to go to Wembley, the Rainbow Theatre in London as well, and a few other places. And I used to do most of the rock bands. There's Slade on the right, Judas Priest, Ted Nugent, and I used to love it. But my parents were, health and safety at rock gigs in the late 70s wasn't quite what it is today, and they had other ideas and other plans for me. So this got buried in the back of my mind that perhaps I ought to get a proper job. And then my final gig that I did where I'd got a press pass was when one of my favorite bands from the United States, Blackfoot, was touring the UK, and they were recording one particular concert. And there I am, where the arrow is pointing to, right up the front, taking pictures of Blackfoot. And when that album came out and I saw myself on the front cover, I started, well, this is it. I've reached the pinnacle now. I will now go and get a proper job. And I went down to the Dorking Job Centre, and the nice lady there gave me a 10-minute interview. And at the end of the interview concluded that I was cut out for pension scheme administration. I'd never heard of the concept before, but they said you get paid quite well. And I took up a job with National Employers Life, which is basically Unum now. So those of you know Unum, that's what NEL became in time. And that was their head office. That's where I worked from. It was one of Henry VIII's pads back in the day. And I kind of loved it. It was all right, free lunch. Got a nice sports and social club, which I thoroughly enjoyed. But after 3 months of pension scheme admin, my boss came and said, Phil, we don't think that pension scheme admin is your thing. But what we do think is that sales might be your thing. We would like you to become a broker consultant. As I said, they were called inspectors back then. And that role entails a patch of financial advisors in and around London. And your job is to go and meet 20 of them every single week and to convince them that they should be promoting our products, National Employers Life products. So NEL at the time was really known for PHI products, income replacement. They had their own mortgage schemes as well, and they had a kind of fancy pension scheme as well. So off I went to Croydon, got my company car, and for the next 20 years, I met 20 financial advisors every single week. Every single week. We had amazing training. And over those 20 years, I learned a lot about the good, the bad, and the ugly of financial advisor marketing. Financial advisors taught me, because I was still only 18, 19, I knew nothing about the world of work, and they taught me a few things as well. What was interesting, the financial advisors that taught me most were the ones that had had great training. Allied Dunbar, Hambro, those sort of financial advisors, they taught me a lot. Now, when my book came out, early last year, this book is basically the good, the bad, and the ugly of financial advisor marketing. And it was a trip down memory lane in many ways. And actually, there's no bad marketing in here. It's all the good stuff. And I wanted to get down all the stuff that financial advisors have used right back to the 70s, the stuff that actually works. And we'll show you what that is in a minute. My most recent book looks to the future. And if you all stay to the end, I will give you a link where you can go and get the ebook version of this. So this book looks to the future. The first book looked to the past. This book looks to the future. Now, what was interesting when I look at the difference between what financial advisors used to do in the past and what they used to do and what they do today, it's very striking that the stuff we used to do in the past was very proactive. And today it's very reactive. Basically, internet marketing has made us very lazy. Unless you are full on with, say, Facebook advertising, or you really do have a serious social media strategy that you commit to, and you are producing the right content to the right places on a regular basis, internet has made us very, very lazy. So back in 1978, this is what financial advisors were doing for the most part. A lot of networking, huge numbers of seminars. I mean, just about every financial advisor put on some sort of workshop or client event of some sort. Trade shows were great. A lot of financial advisors back in the day tended to have not deep niches, but they had perhaps one financial advisor would say, well, we do quite a lot with accountants, we do quite a lot with dentists, we do quite a lot with policemen. And so they would go to trade shows and that sort of thing. They do a lot of letter writing, cold calling, faxing, good old-fashioned leaflets. I mean, you can see the list for yourself. We don't need to go through that. And there were one or two who were writing books back in the day. There were one or two that were appearing on radio phone-ins as well. And PR was a lot more popular, joint ventures, and yes, of course, referrals and introductions. So that's what we were doing back in the 70s. We are still doing some of that today, but nothing like as much. Today, we've got Google. We hope that we appear high in Google listings, maybe our Google My Business listing. We use directory listings like Unbiased, like Vouch For, those sort of things as well. We've got a website. Yes, we still use referrals. Referrals are still the #1 source of business for most financial advisors, but I'm going to just sort of question that one in a bit. A bit of introductions. And then there's the stuff that is a bit more proactive. Some of it we can't actually do right now, well, we will be able to from next week. Back to networking events, back to doing seminars, webinars, newsletters, sponsorships, these sort of things as well. And social media and LinkedIn, I would say, as you know, we tend to use them as reactive, but if you are very proactive with social media and LinkedIn, then they can be very effective indeed. So let's have a look and see what the actual most successful marketing tactics are for financial advisors, but different types of financial advisors. So the top strategies, and this is research that I've done and research that Michael Kitzes has done over in the United States, for top performing financial advisors or financial advisors who've been around a while, they've got established businesses. These are, in order, the most successful and best performing marketing activities. So referrals still at the top. Writing books. Now that is, again, it tends to be the most, a lot of financial advisors in the United States, they write books. You haven't written a book, you know, there's question marks over your perceived expertise, authority, credibility, professionalism, all that stuff as well. They still use seminars and webinars in a really big way, web listings, introducers, LinkedIn, and right at the bottom, the most expensive option is hiring agencies and consultants to do your work for you. For low risk strategies for new financial advisors, or for those who need a bit of help, maybe they're struggling a little bit, that's the list that seems to be the most effective. Now, it's worth just highlighting one or two of these and making a point. So let's just look at old school non-digital. One of the best performing marketing activities I've ever seen done by a financial advisor is a financial advisor in Guildford, in Surrey, a guy called Keith Churchhouse of Chapters Financial Planning, and his main marketing activity was always sponsoring a roundabout on the way into Guildford. We've all been round roundabouts that it says sponsor this roundabout. That's what he used to do, and he did it for years and years and years. Now, when you think about it, that's a genius idea, because he knows that people coming into Guildford for work, tens of thousands of people will see that sign every single day on the way in, and then tens of thousands of people will see that sign again on the way home. Tens of thousands of people will also see it at the weekend. And what he would do is he would combine that old school marketing with appearing on a county sound radio, doing phone-ins with people like that. So he would combine old school stuff with something a bit fancier with radio. And to this day, that's, you know, he's been one of the most successful marketers I've ever seen. But let's just put a highlighter pen over this and see what we can see. What do we notice about those things there? They are educational tools. Seminars, webinars, client events, funnel websites, books, blogging. It's promotion. It's mostly educational tools, and I'm going to sort of continue down this educational route for a while, because it's really, really important. Because when you look at financial advisors' websites, and I've looked at hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, the simple fact of the matter is they all say the same thing. Some of them even use the same templates. They all use the same wording. It is impossible to differentiate one financial advisor from another. And this is a fundamental problem that we have in financial advisor marketing. A fundamental, and it's a deep-rooted problem that we haven't managed to address just yet. If I go down any high street, and it's not just financial advisors, one firm of accountants looks the same as another, one firm of lawyers looks exactly the same as another, and one firm of financial advisors looks the same as another. And you might say, well, Phil, that's a bit unfair. We are different from Jones & Co. down the road, and I know you are. But your website says exactly the same thing as Jones & Co.'s website and every other financial advisor's website. So we've got to find a way that when people are looking for financial advisors in your particular area, we've got to find a way that people go, oh, I like the look of you, or I like the look of that one. There's got to be a way of differentiating it. And educational assets is one of the ways of doing that. And I'll expand on that. This is how many marketing people would have you believe is the way that financial advisors should market their business. This concept of content marketing, where we chuck content and expertise and value out there onto the internet, just adding to the noise, as if there was no value to the content that you're putting out there. This idea that you should be putting content on podcasts, on websites, on Facebook groups, running your own online course, your own email newsletter, being on Alexa, I have to say it quietly, being on LinkedIn, doing all of this stuff all the time is just nonsense. And it's completely unsustainable over the long term. And I would say something else as well. If this is a route that you are taking, I believe it is seriously cheapening your value. By giving away all this expertise willy-nilly all over the place really cheapens your value, and it really doesn't differentiate you one little bit. However, I have nothing wrong with doing what proper marketing should do, and it is to identify your ideal dream clients, to know and understand what websites do they visit, what newspapers do they read, what podcasts do they like to listen to? What LinkedIn groups have they joined? And really focus your effort on where you know they hang out online. So for example, if you're a financial advisor and you happen to target, you like dentists maybe, well, you will know, presumably you will know quite a lot about dentists. So you will go to dentists' trade shows. You will know what magazines dentists read. You will know what podcasts they read. You will know what YouTube channel. Focus your efforts. And one of the problems with this idea that we should be using content marketing all over the place all of the time is that it creates an awful lot of stress, because we're thinking, this bit isn't working and this bit isn't working. If nothing else comes out of this presentation today, I would like you to actually be able to cross stuff out and say, great, I don't need to use that anymore. Great, I don't need to use that anymore. Great, I don't need to worry about using Instagram anymore. Great, I don't need to be worrying about using LinkedIn company pages. Just ditch most of it, but get real focus on where your real and your ideal clients hang out. So that's just my little bit of rant that's important I get done, but it's utter nonsense, this one. Okay, so what is the single most effective marketing activity for financial advisors? This is something I have looked at for over 40 years. And time again, the data shows that the most successful financial advisors around the world use seminars, workshops, and events and webinars. Educational tools. That's what a seminar is. It's not a sales pitch. It's an educational activity. And I believe in this so much, I've even written a book about how financial advisors can put on seminars. Now, over the last year and a half, we've not been able to do any seminars, but the good news is we can still do webinars. And so those financial advisors that were doing seminars have been doing webinars. They've been doing workshops. So these are educational assets. However, if we combine seminars and educational tools with scorecards, then we have a marketing tool that is just off the scale in its effectiveness. And I'll explain more of that as we go. So, notwithstanding what I've just said about putting content all over the place all of the time, there are multiple ways for me to tell the world about my business. There are multiple ways for you to tell the world about your business. You can pick any of those things, but there are very few ways for the world to tell you about them. And that's a subtle but really, really important point that I want to explore in a lot more depth. So let's have a look at 8 things that are going wrong with financial advisors marketing in 2021. First of all, the referral process is changing. Now, if we go back to pre-internet, before the internet, let's say that we're at a dinner party and somebody around the, maybe you yourself said, does anybody know a mortgage advisor? I want to help my daughter get their first mortgage, or I'm getting near retirement. I need to talk to somebody about getting my pension ducks in a row. Someone around the table would say, yeah, check out my financial advisor, Jones & Co. They're great. And you would go, thank you. And you would write Jones & Co. down on the napkin. And the next day you'd look them up in the yellow pages and you would phone them up. That's all that happened. The referral from a human being was all you needed. We'd phone them up. Doesn't happen that way today. These days, we're at that dinner party. Someone says, check out Jones & Co. We write down Jones & Co. on the napkin. The next day, we don't phone them up. The next day, we go to Google because we want to check them out. We want to see what they look like. And while we're looking for them, have they got any reviews? While we're looking on Google, we spot another mortgage advisor or another financial planner. So we thought we better have a look at them as well and see what they look like. Then we see that their website is identical to Jones & Co.'s website. So we're now thinking, okay, they all look good. Which one do I go for? And it may well be that while you're searching Google, you will spot a link to a podcast that talks about personal finance. Or you might find a link to a YouTube channel where a financial advisor is posting YouTube videos out there, and you might think, oh, actually I can figure this stuff out for myself. And because we've got the internet, I don't need to go and see a mortgage broker, or I don't need to go and see, perhaps I can figure this stuff out for myself. So that automatic referral thing, I think, is beginning to creak. So when people do go to check you out online, you've got to stand out from the crowd. You've got to get their attention. You've got to find a way to take your website visitors by the hand and bring them into your world so that they feel that there is no other option than to talk to you. People want proof of your value. These bland platitudes on websites that say we're committed to customer excellence, that's nonsense, utter nonsense. That's just a hygiene factor today. We've got to give people proof of value. Proof of value could be through educational assets like a seminar, a webinar, a book you've written, a real high quality blog that you've written. The overwhelming majority of financial advisors do not have a written down marketing plan, which means their marketing is a bit scattergun and all over the shop. It is remarkable how few financial advisors collaborate, because most financial advisors are actually not in competition, which is absolutely fantastic, which means because you're not in competition, you are missing a massive trick by not banding together with other financial advisors in your area and creating, say, a dedicated website where each of you contribute a blog, say once a week or once a month, which will get picked up by Google, which will raise your profile locally, which will make it much more likely that you'll get found when people are looking for you. Financial advisors marketing is very reactive. We've talked about that already. Your websites just are not working for the most part. For the most part, they are brochures, and they are not converting visitors to your website who perhaps could do with your services. Most advisors don't know their website numbers, and it never ceases to amaze me how few financial advisors know how many people visited their website last week, last month, how many pages they looked at, and I'll give you some stats on this in a minute or two. And a lot of the traditional methods of marketing are running out of steam. As I said, we've not been able to do seminars. We've not been able to go to trade shows. We've not been able to go to conferences. We've not been able to go to seminars, to networking events. Our websites are simply not working as effectively enough. And although I said there are 8 fundamental problems with advisor marketing, please bear with me while I really rub this in. There are more problems as well. Marketing within regulation is a tough one. I get that. But most financial advisors have perceptions about what can and can't be done with marketing and compliance that are just way off track. There's very much more that you can do with your marketing that you are possibly thinking, no, our compliance people would never let me get away with that. Trust me, you can do a lot more than you think you can. Fundamentally, what it comes down to is don't give financial advice in your marketing, or your social media. I mean, nobody wants it anyway. Don't do financial promotions on social media. Again, nobody's interested anyway. And don't bring your business into disrepute. How hard is that? So that's basically what it comes down to at the end of the day. Differentiation I've talked about. We as financial advisors also have preconceived perceptions about what people think about us. I happen to believe that financial planning and financial advice is, whilst we know what it is, we talk about it a lot of the public out there really have no idea what financial planning is. And I think financial planning is one of those services that people actually need to experience before they get it. And that's why seminars are so powerful, because someone can come along to your seminar, they can sit quietly at the back if they want to, they don't have to engage, but they get to experience an aspect of your element. So some of the financial advisors who really do well with seminars do live case studies, or they use case studies. So someone sitting in the audience can get a sense of who you are, what you're about, and also simple human things come in, like, do I like you? Do I like the lunch? You know, this sort of thing. So yes, I get it. Financial planning is something, so people need to get a sample of what you do before they go, okay, I'll commit. We have shiny object syndrome. And as I said, as the internet, social media has made us very, very lazy. We think, oh, right, we'll give that a go this month. Let's have a go at TikTok. If I have a quid for every financial advisor who said, oh, let's get onto TikTok, for goodness sake. If you believe that your prime target ideal clients are on TikTok, then fine, go for it. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. Literally, you're wasting your time. Financial advisors also have peaks and troughs in workload as well. There are certain times of years where, you know, where it goes ballistic, which is absolutely fair enough. And making time for marketing is another problem as well. And I know some people feel that any kind of marketing in financial planning or financial advice feels a bit American. This idea of having a lead magnet on our website or doing this kind of stuff, well, that's a bit weird, a bit icky. We don't do that in the UK. We're a lot more professional than that. So I get it. There is that perception there as well. And, you know, many financial advisors put their hands up, put their hands up and say, you know, marketing's not really my thing. We either outsource it or we might have someone else. So there's a lot of issues around marketing, which hopefully we can deal with today. Client acquisition comes in small steps. Now, this is really, really important. Buying cycles used to be very direct, and I'll give you an example of that in a minute. And the simple example was somebody would be referred to a financial advisor, the financial advisor would end up talking to them. That's how it used to be. Today, it's a lot more complex. People need to get a sense of who you are. The trust needs to build. The credibility needs to build. We need to sample a bit of what you do. And we've got to stop relying on one-step websites. So what do I mean by a one-step website? I mean a website that's a brochure. That's what I mean. We need to have more steps in the process where somebody visits our website, and as I said earlier, we need to take them by the hand and bring them into our business. And I'll show you how to do that in a minute. Common expectations around leads. I'll jump over this one really quickly. There is a lot of perception and expectation that our website is going to produce the leads for us. They're not, for the most part. Referrals will come automatically. They do, but we're getting fewer of them. Local introducers will just automatically send us leads. They should. It used to happen. Doesn't happen so much these days. Lead providers, whether you go to Unbiased or anywhere else for that matter, we like them to be quick and inexpensive. Well, then you'll get rubbish. We expect our lead providers to be quick and high quality. Well, they can be, but you have to pay a lot for that. We expect lead providers to be high quality and inexpensive. Well, you have to wait a month of Sundays for that. And we believe that niche marketing doesn't work. Wrong. One of the most successful financial planners in the world focuses his entire efforts. He will only deal with people in one industry. That industry, professional bass fishermen. That's it. He won't deal with anybody else other than people who are professional bass fishermen. Now that's a niche, but if you're a professional bass fisherman in the United States, you don't go to any other financial planner anywhere. You only go to this one guy, and yet he's one of the most successful. I could talk about niche marketing all day, but that would bore you. So traditional marketing running out of steam a bit, networking can't do it, seminars can't do it, trade shows don't exist anymore, web listings. I've seen it, I see it every day in our Facebook group, financial advisors complaining every day about certain lead providers. So, you know, that road has reached the end. Social media, it's just noise out there, to be honest. And this right to automatic referrals really is a very dodgy ground to tread on. So let's just continue our history lesson and bring us a bit more up to date. So back to 1998, and we were looking at the dawn of digital, where we start to learn about this stuff. It wasn't called social media, it was called social networking. And LinkedIn, for example, is still a networking site. Although we lump it in the social media bracket, the LinkedIn algorithm rewards people for networking on the platform. It penalizes people for posting content that looks like ads. It was called social networking, and it's important that we remember that. We saw social media, we saw the internet as a really exciting new opportunity. I mean, it is. And basically it was free marketing. We looked at social media as free marketing. Bring it a bit more up to date, and we got into the golden era. It was super easy to get followers. We were obsessed with getting followers. If I had a quid for every follower that I ever had, I wouldn't need to do this. But we don't get paid for followers. We get paid for doing great work with ideal clients. And it was really easy to get followers, and we were broadly obsessed with getting followers. If we put any content out there onto the internet, it was really easy to get engagement. Everyone would see our content. It was pretty well free business when we did get business from it. If you did it on a vaguely regular basis, you were classed as an influencer. And to be quite honest, using social media during that period was a great return on wasting time. Really was a great return. 2020, it's all starting to fall apart. Everyone's on social media. It's just noise. It's as simple as that. It's quite difficult to get attention unless you are focusing on niche social networking platforms. People are getting better at filtering out content that they don't want to see. Some platforms are starting to monetize. So Facebook, for example, I mean, Facebook 5 years ago, it was just free money for financial advisors. But Facebook today, they really want you to pay. Now, I haven't got a problem with paying to use Facebook, i.e. Facebook ads. I haven't got a problem with that at all, providing that for every £1 in advertising I spend, I get £5 comes back. But most financial advisors, they're putting £1 of advertising in and they're only getting 50p coming back. And so that's not sustainable. Any of you here watching this today who are interested in Facebook advertising, if you think that's something that you really want to go down, I have an amazing connection who is a whiz at Facebook advertising for financial advisors. So just get in touch with me and I'll put you in touch with her. So today, social media, as I said, unless you're in a niche market, really is a poor return on wasting time, and we need a lot more discipline and we need a lot more strategy. 2021, here's where the focus needs to be. Having a plan, surprise, surprise, focusing on conversions rather than website traffic. Anybody can get traffic to their website. It's converting it that is the important bit. We need to start thinking about personalized marketing based on data. We need to be thinking about possibly working with influencers, and that could be local influencers. I don't necessarily mean someone like Casey Neistat on YouTube. I mean local influencers, people who can genuinely influence business in your direction. We need to be putting a lot more differentiating ourselves through education value, and we need to be doing activities that create real curiosity in who we are, what we're about, and what our expertise is. So what I've just said was that Lead Gen 1.0 was all about collecting numbers and collecting name and number and email. Lead Gen 2 is about collecting data, using it intelligently for the benefit of the prospect and for your business, and to build better relationships much faster. The way you do that is use a strategy like this. Put education right at the core of your strategy. Make your website or your online presence much, much more interactive. So you turn your website from being just a brochure into something which people actually want to engage with. You personalize your communications in a variety of different ways, and you are extremely conscious of this concept of the value ladder. And I'm going to explain a little bit about each of these as we go forward. So educational assets that really add value are books, videos, podcasts, webinars, personalized assessments, i.e. a scorecard, and gap analysis tools, i.e. a scorecard. Now, I was talking to a financial planner yesterday, and we got into quite a deep conversation about new markets. And there's a lot of financial planners, and I see this in our Facebook group being talked about quite a lot about, is there are a lot of financial planners who are acutely aware that there is huge opportunity if you could get business from younger clients. You know, most of the money is in the quality stuff that you're already doing. The people who are in their 50s, maybe their 60s, they're starting to panic that their pension ducks aren't quite in a row yet. That's what, you know, that sort of stuff. And you do a bit of cash flow modeling and all that groovy stuff as well. But most financial advisors are acutely aware that there is another market that is potentially massive. And there is this perception that the robos are going to deal with that as well. So I was talking to this lady yesterday, and she said, look, our main market is the quality end of the market, but I want, and I really feel that I need to go at the younger market. And I feel that the only way to go to the younger market is to do it on a one-to-many basis. I mean, the younger market can't afford my fees anyway, so they're not going to be coming in, but I still want to serve them because in time, they could be of real value. But I could sell them other services. And I said, well, the best way to do that is put on a seminar or a webinar probably, or a YouTube video or a podcast, and then point them to a self-assessment tool at the end, like a scorecard, where they will be able to answer questions about their personal finances, about their ambitions for the future. They'll get a score, they'll get a personalized report, and they will get a follow-up from you. Now, that follow-up from you is entirely up to you how you do that. You could point them to your Facebook group. You could create your own Facebook group. And I'm starting to see more financial advisors creating community in Facebook groups. So these online assessment tools are potentially a very exciting way to get into a younger market who aren't going to pay for your services anyway, but they will pay for some other things along the way. So now let's look at financial advisor websites. Most of them don't have any strategy behind them. They're far too complicated. They are little more than a brochure. They're very nice looking brochures. They don't collect any data, and they don't convert your visitors. So why do you have a website? Now, if I go back to the early days of websites, they looked awful. I mean, they were absolutely awful. And Martin Bamford, Informed Choice. I think many of you will know Martin Bamford. One of the best at digital marketing in the industry as financial advisors. He was a real early adopter with the website, and he was the first to admit that his website looked appalling. Now, the established thinking back in the day was what you did was you crammed as much stuff as you possibly could onto the homepage of the website. The idea was to make the website sticky. That's what we called it. And if we could put all this cool stuff, we used to put tools on the website, the logic was people would hang around longer. Well, they did hang around longer, but they still didn't make contact in the long run. Now, what we have in today's websites is, and there's some really fantastic website development firms out there for financial advisors, we've got websites that look really nice, but they are still not converting. And one of the reasons is there's still too much on the homepage. And we're just not differentiating ourselves. We are just lookalikes. None of you are paid to look and behave like your competitors down the road. One of these two is the real Audrey Hepburn. The other one is actually paid to look and behave like another brand. She gets hired by providers, and she'll go onto their stand at a conference, and IFAs come along and have a selfie with her and that kind of stuff as well. But you have to differentiate. You cannot afford to look the same as every other financial advisor. And then we get all this nonsense as well that I see written on financial advisors' website. This is just standard hygiene stuff. If you aren't committed to excellence in customer, I don't need to know that you're committed to it. I expect it. Okay? And then we get all this nonsense as well. Again, on the research that I've based on. What is it about lighthouses and compasses and elderly people flying kites with their grandchildren. It's just nonsense. Okay, this does nothing. It looks great. I'm fine with that. Okay, absolutely fine with that. It does not convert your website visitors into quality inquiries. Now, back in the day when websites first came up, if you had a website, then people could get some information. But most financial advisors' websites today tell us the bleeding obvious, to be quite honest, stuff we already can figure out for ourselves. They don't guide us into information that we'll genuinely find useful. Yeah. And it's just bland. That's kind of the words I'd really want to put with it. And I came across a cartoon literally only a couple of days ago, and I just want to show you this from the amazing marketunist Tom Fishburne. Have a quick look at that. So I think there's a bit of this going on with financial advisors' websites as well. We've really got to take our websites by the scruff of the neck and change things. However, so what do your website visitors actually need today? Not what they needed 10, 15 years ago. They need your website to speak to a specific issue. So for sake of argument, if I'm a heart surgeon in London and I'm starting to get worried about my level of income in retirement, I don't want a financial advisor's website to tell me that it's committed to excellence. I want to go onto a financial advisor's website that speaks to me. And it's got a big label across the top that says, are you a heart surgeon in London concerned about your level of income in retirement? If you are, enter your email address here and download our free tip sheet for heart surgeons. Now, if I'm a heart surgeon and you've got that written on your website as a financial advisor, there's no way I'm not going to give you my email address. No way. So our websites really need to speak to specific people. They need to speak to specific issues. They need to feel that you're the only choice. They don't need to go and look at anybody else's website. They also need proof of your expertise, perhaps through that download, a little bit of education, maybe there's a video on the site, something like that, and they need a reason to engage with you. So most financial advisors, all their focus is on getting website traffic. I already know that you are already getting website traffic, but what you're not getting is enough conversions. So here's what I did. I looked at 100 financial advisor websites, and we eventually managed to get hold of their stats. And what I discovered was that on average, out of those 100 financial advisor websites, they were getting 197 people visiting their site every month. Some a lot more, some a lot less, but I'll take 197. Now, even if half of that 197 were recruiters or people who are never going to become clients anyway, you're still left with about 100 who have not gone on to make contact with you. We have to ask the question, why have they not gone on to make contact? At the very basic, if you use Google Analytics or any other tool, you'll get a lot of stats, way more geeky stuff than you'll ever need. But this is the stuff every financial advisor really ought to know. How many visits did you get last week, last month, last quarter, whatever? How many pages of your site did they look at? Which pages? How long did they spend? What did they type into Google that led them to your website? Where are they? And what was the page where they finally gave up and left? And there's one other bit of information. The bounce rate. The bounce rate is the percentage of people who arrive on your website and then leave without looking at any other pages. A good bounce rate for most financial advisor websites, well, for any website for that matter, is 25% or under. So even if you're losing 25% of your website visitors, they arrive and leave, that's not too bad at all. Most financial advisors, and I looked at their stats, were losing over half of your visitors. There was one financial advisor, he had a really nice looking website, and yet his bounce rate was 87%. What was the reason? When I looked at it, the average number of clickable links on these websites' homepage was 34. 34 calls to action on the homepage alone. And if there's that much confusion going on, a confused mind will always say no. So if I was to just give you one tip on your website today, is to strip out a lot more of the links that are on there. And I understand why you might put a link to your pension page, a link to your mortgage page, a link to your About Us page, a link to your social media, a link to your, you know, I get why you'd want to do that, but the stats are showing that that is putting people off. It really is. So we're doing all this marketing stuff out there on the internet, or we're doing webinars, or we're doing seminars, whatever, and they arrive on our websites and it's like them hitting a brick wall with multiple calls to action when they get there. And there's even science behind this. It's actually called Hick's law. The more choices someone has, the slower their reaction time is. And the older they are, the less likely it is they're actually going to do anything at all. So there's proper science behind this. So at the end of the day, what our websites are actually doing is they are acting in, it's no better than going down to the local shopping mall and dishing out leaflets in the hope that someone goes, oh yeah, I've been looking for a financial advisor, I'll give you a call. It ain't going to happen, okay? So in short, financial advisors' websites are actually getting visitors. We've proved that. The websites they're arriving on are nice looking brochures, but those nice looking brochures are not turning them into inquiries. A scorecard, I guarantee you, will change that. And it has always been the case that the views of your shop from the outside are never as valuable as the views from the inside. We need to take people by the hand and bring them into our business. And I don't necessarily mean that in the real world. I mean that theoretically. Get them into our business so that they can experience some of our expertise. I don't mean read about our expertise on the homepage. I mean experience our expertise in a variety of different ways. Scorecards are one of those ways to do that. So you could get to the point where you could argue that a website for a financial advisor should do one of two things: either add value to existing clients or convert new visitors. Not both. Your website should not be a brochure. Okay, if you want a brochure, go down the printing company and get one printed up. So what we're going to do is focus on converting new visitors. Ideally, though, we want the right visitors. And the way to do that is to give them real value and create curiosity. We need to give them something to do. Do you know a little tiny little trick that works on your website is have a little button in the middle of your homepage that says, how did you hear about us? With a little drop down box. And it says, vouched for, your seminar, local advertising, whatever. And if you give people something to do, all the psychology behind websites has proven that if you can get people to physically interact with your website, it dramatically increases the likelihood that they will go on to do something else and to maybe make contact with you. So even a simple thing like how did you hear about us? Give them something to do, address their actual concerns, challenges and pain. We'll talk about that in a minute. Give them a personalized experience and look for ways to start conversations with people. So let's start putting this into practice. And I want to start with giving people a personalized experience and to show just how powerful that is. So when I was head of national accounts at Zurich, I was on the product design team. I was partly responsible for our advertising and marketing budget, which meant that advertising agencies would approach me all the time and try and get my attention. And one day in the post, this arrived from an advertising agency that specialized in working with large providers. And basically what they sent me was what looked like a sort of mirror that someone had written in the steam on the mirror, Phil, you change your toothbrush when it's worn out, why not your agency? Do you think that got my attention? Of course it did. Personalized marketing. And this was done before Photoshop. The same one sent me something else a month later. Do you think that got my attention? It's actually framed and on my office wall. Personalized marketing. Again, that was done before Photoshop. So somebody had done that by hand to get my attention. A few years ago, I was selling my house and I put a day aside to go around all the local estate agents. And I went around all the local estate agents and guess what? They all looked the same. They all said exactly the same thing. The inside of their offices were all the same. Their websites all said exactly the same thing. When I went in, they all promised me an early sale. All their fees were broadly similar. And it left me nothing but confused. I had no idea which one I should go for. So I thought, well, I'll sleep on it and I'll go home. Following day, the post arrived. And in the post, was an envelope, and inside the envelope was a piece of red carpet, 8 inches by 6 inches. And I thought, okay, maybe when I move house, there'll be a square on the floor and I can use that there. But it was what was on the other side of the red carpet that really got my attention. They'd written my name, and they put all our clients get the same red carpet treatment. Super simple, super personalized. And I give you that today, ladies and gents, as my gift to you, that when we can go back, we can already go down to the local carpet center, buy up a few yards of red carpet, cut it up into squares, send every new prospect one of those. Super simple. They will love it. So marketing, however you do it, is really to get people onto your value ladder. The value ladder is the process by which we take people by the hand and bring them into our business. It's to make it easier to start conversations and build relationships with people. And let me explain why this is important, because there tend to be two types of purchase. There's the impulse purchase, where it doesn't take much thinking about. I want a coffee, I'll buy a coffee. Doesn't take much thinking about. Whereas financial advice, financial planning, is what we call a considered purchase. And what that really involves is the person doing a bit more thinking before they actually think, okay, I'm going to do this. And broadly speaking, it's about trust. Most financial advisors' websites say we do financial planning. And in the world of the internet, we are expecting people who have never heard of us before to arrive on our website and then commit to your fees and building a relationship with you without knowing anything about you before then. So it's a process of building trust. Now, a lot of other professional service providers use this value ladder approach. So for example, a dentist has a value ladder. My dad was a dental surgeon. He always told me that the real money was not in fillings and taking teeth out. See, the real money was in the stuff at the top of the ladder, the expensive stuff, cosmetic surgery, cosmetic dentistry. So what a lot of dentists do these days is just to get you in the building, just to start building relationship, just to start building the trust so they get to know you, get to like you, get to trust you. They'll do free teeth whitening, free teeth cleaning. I mean, there was a time when teeth whitening was at the top of the list, but now it's everybody can get it done. So they just want to get you in, treat you really well, build the trust, get a video testimonial of you, okay, so that it becomes significantly more likely that you will stay with them and ascend that ladder. Same goes for a chiropractor. What they really want you to do is to spend a lot of money and go on their ongoing care plan, or even a weekend wellness retreat at a fancy hotel with a celebrity chef and some yoga and some meditation and all that stuff, yeah? But if that's what they were promoting on their website, no one would go for it because they don't know whether you're any good or not. So what a lot of chiropractors do now is get you in, give you the free stuff, and it makes it much more likely you'll go further up the ladder. Same goes for a gym. The real money is in personal training, those sort of things as well, but they get you in, they give you a free trial. The value ladder for a gym usually starts on the 1st of January. And now this is my value ladder for financial advisors. It starts at the bottom. Whenever I meet a financial advisor for the first time, I say, come join my Facebook group or my marketing group. It's amazing. And it is amazing. There's nothing that you could ever ask about how to be a successful financial advisor that you can't find out in that group. And that group is free. Then I try and get financial advisors into my scorecard, and I have a way of doing that, and maybe offer an ebook. So the things in green are free. The things in blue are sometimes free, sometimes chargeable. The things in black are always chargeable, and the things in red are reassuringly expensive. The real money for me is in the online coaching, the event speaking, and I do like a long weekend deep dive marketing retreat for financial advisors. If that's all I had on my website, financial advisors visiting it will see the price and I'll go, blimey, I'm not going on that. I mean, I know nothing about Phil. Why would I do that? So that I can bring people by the hand and take them into my world, I've got to offer this other stuff down the bottom. So here are some ideas for a financial advisor's value ladder. And you don't have to have all of them, just pick some of them. A free tips guide. Remember I said maybe if you're a financial advisor and you specialize in heart surgeons, then offer an e-guide or a tip sheet for heart surgeons, yeah? If you're a financial advisor and you do later life lending, then have a download about the pros and cons of later life lending. If you're a financial advisor that specializes in retirement planning for people in their late 50s who own businesses, then do exactly the same thing. So, I mean, those are all the things you could choose from. And look at the top one, weekend or overseas retreat. I know financial advisors in the United States who don't do any more financial planning. They don't do any more face-to-face stuff. They only do weekend retreats. But those weekend retreats are for the existing clients, the people who've been with them for many, many years. I know one financial advisor who does what he calls a weekend wealth symposium. He charges $20,000 and he has got a queue for a year or more. So this stuff can be done and is being done, but you have to start down the bottom. So looking at it a bit more realistically, for a financial advisor, I would start with a scorecard, maybe give a short guide or a tip sheet for everyone who goes through your scorecard, maybe have a podcast. But, you know, even if you took those two out, that's a perfectly reasonable value ladder for a financial advisor. People take the scorecard, they get to experience some of your expertise, they become curious about what you do, get them along to your next seminar or your webinar. It makes it much more likely they're actually going to do some stuff. And if you want to do the fancy stuff, your own weekend retreat, then why not? So this stuff is a lot simpler than you can. In terms of value ladders, here's a few examples. Martin Bamford, I mentioned him earlier. He's written 3 or 4 books, you know, and these are on his value ladder. Many of you might know Catherine Morgan, rising star in the financial planning world, who's really using the internet, particularly Facebook, very, very well to take people by the hand and bring them into her world. One of the things she does is this free 5-day challenge to help you identify what kind of relationship you have with money. This sounds like coaching, doesn't it? And I know a number of financial planners, they're a bit nervous of the coaching word, but more and more financial planners are beginning to realize actually that's what financial planning can be, is in many ways. It's about coaching. Pete Matthews, you know, in many ways, he's the kind of the daddy of the value ladder through his podcast and through his YouTube channel as well. And that's where he's really put his focus, real focus there. So people are doing it. It does work. You do need to be committed to it. So let's go back in time again and let's go to 1988. I'm now going to show you the single most effective marketing tool I've ever seen a financial advisor use, ever. And I met a financial advisor in 1988. Kylie was doing her thing. Bruce Willis, that movie, these were the big things going on in 1988. And I met a financial advisor called Mick, ridiculously successful, possibly the most successful financial advisor I've ever met. He used to use seminars and worksite presentations, and I'll show you his handout that he used to do in that. And he used to call it Mick's 1-minute money quiz. Remember, it was 1988. We used those crazy. His next door neighbor was Cliff Richard. Tom Jones lived 3 or 4 doors further up the road. So this guy's successful, and yet he was a one-person business. His wife helped him now and again. One-man financial advisor business, the most successful financial advisor I've ever met. So how did he do this? My patch, was southwest London. I had kind of Reading on the west, East London on the right, and Portsmouth down the south with the A3 running down the middle. And Mick was one of the financial advisors that I used to call on. We got to know each other quite well. He told me that it wasn't really a niche, but he had quite a few clients who owned printing businesses. And he would do the personal finance, the mortgages, the pensions, the life assurance for the owners. And he would always say to the owners, would it be okay if I did a presentation to your staff, perhaps at a lunch break or something like that? And he would always say yes. And this was his handout. I mean, this is it. This was his handout. He would give everybody in the audience a little postcard with these 5 questions on it. And he would say to them, before I leave today, could you just answer these questions and put your name and address on it? And I will pick one at random and I'll give out a book token or a bottle of wine at the end. So everybody filled it out. Now, you as financial advisors looking at this, and you could see some answers on there, just through your experience, just through your expertise, your knowledge, you would be able to make an instant assessment or have some sort of opinion about the person who filled out the answers to this. So what he would do, he would collect these up, he'd do the prize draw, he would take them home. And then between him and his wife, he would then send a personalized letter to every single person. And some days he would take home 5 cards, some days he would take home 500 cards, but he would follow it up with a personalized letter. And the letters used some ready-made paragraphs, but they were still personalized. So he would say to, hi, dear Mrs. Jones, thanks for coming along to my presentation. Thanks for filling out my postcard. I've noticed from your answers on the postcard that you're pretty on top of your savings, which is really good, and that will stand you in good stead for the future. But I also noticed that if you or your husband were hit by a bus tonight, that would be a real problem. Is that something you would like to attend to? And he told me that 99 times out of 100 people would say yes. So people have experienced his expertise. They've engaged with him at a human level through the presentation. They've answered a few questions. He has replied with a personalized response. And because they have got a sense of what he's about, what his expertise is, it was impossible to say no to him. No, I don't want to work with you. But he could also, having said that, not everyone would be an ideal client for him. And that was the beauty of this particular approach. He could pick and choose the people that he particularly wanted to follow up. But every single person who filled in one of these went on his newsletter list, every single one of them. We got a question. Let's just break for a question. Someone's asked a question. Sorry, Philip, I really enjoyed it. Okay, no problem. That's fine. We'll send you the recording. So, by any other name, this, what you're looking at here, is a scorecard. That's a scorecard. And it was being done long before the internet came along. In fact, any financial advisor, when the internet did come along, any financial advisor who could work their way around an Excel spreadsheet could probably create something like this that they could plug into their website. But now the technology is around to make this really easy to do. So let's press on. Oops, what have I done? So scorecard marketing is perfect for any business that needs to get data and understand each prospect as an individual before they can become a client. That sounds like financial advisors to me. Who should be using scorecards? Businesses that help clients to achieve a goal, fulfill a desire, or solve complex problems. That sounds like financial advisors. Businesses that need data to get to know someone before they can work with them. Sounds like financial advisors. Businesses that make recommendations to clients based on data. Sounds like financial advisors. Scorecards do not work if you are selling a physical product like a book or a widget or something like that. They really only work if you need to get to know people based on their data and give them recommendations. So this is called data-driven marketing. And it's a method of marketing that uses data gathered from customer interactions to better understand their motivations, preferences, and behaviors. That's short for a quiz. And the proof behind it is that businesses that use data-driven marketing invariably enhance the customer experience, which only is good for your business as a financial advisor. The reason it works is there's a bit of curiosity going on behind it. If somebody goes onto a website and they see a quiz or an assessment tool or a gap analysis tool that relates to them, there's no way you're not going to do it. There's no way you're not going to do it. Simple as that. And the simple fact of the matter is everyone loves a quiz. And if we find a quiz online or on an app, we just love to do them. And we've all done these things. And it's based on the psychology that human beings love to benchmark themselves against some sort of standard that some expert or somebody else has set. Could I run a marathon in the next 10 weeks? Answer this series of questions and find out in the next hour. Could I lose 10 pounds in the next 10 weeks? Answer the questions and find out soon. Could I be a better lover? Is my business ready to pitch to the dragons? Find out in the next 5-10 minutes. That's what these are, and human beings love them. And I'll be honest, this simply wasn't available for financial advisors to use as little as a year ago. Yet my friend Mick was doing it back in the old school days as well. So people get an instant assessment. They compare themselves against some sort of standard or other people. They can see their areas of weakness. then they can access the expert, in other words, the owner of the assessment, and they can get a personalized plan. This is what creates the curiosity. And as a result of doing this, people always want to aspire to do better. And as I said, how fit am I? How intelligent am I? Am I a natural leader? How ready am I for retirement? Could I retire early? The financial planners amongst you, I know that you will have clients who don't believe they could retire early, but through perhaps the life planning work, the cash flow modeling work that you do, you can show them that they can retire early. Combine that with a scorecard, you have an amazing tool. So essentially what a scorecard is, a simple, attractive website survey page. You ask questions, simple questions. We're not asking people how much money they've got or anything like that. It's simple yes, no, or multiple choice questions. They get a score and a personalized assessment. And that assessment is not financial advice. It's just observations. They get an opportunity for them to talk to you. And this thing is GDPR compliant as well. Bit more detail. It's custom branded to you. They get a traffic light score. The results are dynamically created. So if they get a high score, they get observations based on a high score. If they get a low score, they get something else. It gives them personalized value. We've been talking about personalization. This is what creates the curiosity. And essentially what people are doing is filling in a fact find through the medium of a quiz. When someone goes through your scorecard, you get an email that says, John Smith has just completed your scorecard. Go have a look at their results. You have a look at their results, and just like Mick's money quiz, you will be able to see straight away whether or not they're a client for you. But even if they're not a client for you, you can still add them to your newsletter list. And you get to understand them as an individual, and that means you can follow them up through a conversation that is based on the information they've already given you. Okay? Now, you know better than I know that the leads that you currently get come from all sorts of different places. You might be doing Facebook ads, you might be doing seminars, you might be using Unbiased, you might be getting referrals. But a scorecard is a great place to filter them all onto the same page. If you use professional introducers, tell them about your scorecard and put them through that as well. So it improves the effectiveness of your marketing by putting value at its heart. It turns your web presence into something of real value. It creates this curiosity. It encourages visitors to genuinely engage with your online presence rather than just read a brochure. It gives you highly qualified, data-rich leads, and that means you can personalize your follow-up because you understand the person in depth. And I believe this is an absolute game changer. It is part of your value ladder. It could even be the first step on your value ladder. It turns your website into a tool that actually works. You can choose the leads you want to work with. You can ditch the ones you don't want to work with. You can personalize your follow-up, and it positions you as an expert. That's why seminars work, because people get to see the whites of your eyes. They get a sense of your expertise and your credibility and your professionalism. A scorecard does much the same thing. So what this all means is that the quality of the conversations you're going to be have with new prospects just literally change overnight as a result of doing this approach. In terms of practicalities, I'm going to show you some example scorecards in just a second, and we're kind of getting towards summing up. Your scorecard needs to have a theme. Could you unlock a better retirement through later life lending? That could be your theme. Could I retire early? That could be your theme. Am I ready for retirement? How protected is my family? These could be sort of themes. And what I've got is a great big list of themes that financial advisors, you pick the theme that you want to work with. You then choose the categories of questions. So financial planning, it might be your vision for retirement. That could be a category of questions. The planning I've already done, that could be a category of questions. Dealing with the unexpected, that could be a category of questions, and maybe legacy, that could be a category of questions as well. So people answer your questions, and I've got like a huge, great spreadsheet of questions that you can pick and choose from. They answer the questions. There is a scoring logic going on in the background, which rewards the right answers. So people get a score, they get category scores, and then they get their report. And as I said, that report is not financial advice. There's a call to action, and that could be as simple as give us a call. But you have got a dashboard in the software that you can then look at their answers and follow them up as well. And you also pick up trends. So you want to perhaps have this on, have a link to it on your website. Check out our scorecard, take our assessment, do it now. Give people maybe an incentive to take it. But just by having one of these things will seriously differentiate you from everyone else. And you want to have your face on it as well. There's a lot of evidence to show now that marketing that actually shows your face, particularly in professional services, is a lot more effective than marketing that's got pictures of lighthouses or old folks flying kites with their grandchildren. Put you on there, okay? Really important. Your theme is really, really important. That's the bit that will get people's attention. So if you are a personal trainer, then you will know that some people will have asked you, could you run a marathon? So you could have a scorecard on your website that says, are you ready to run a marathon? Simple as that. So you choose your theme to help you reach the people that you're actually targeting. So I've got one called the LinkedIn Health Check. Literally everybody I meet on LinkedIn, I've got a little script I send to them and I say, I would imagine you're on LinkedIn to attract new clients, new connections. Well, take my LinkedIn Health Check and it will tell you how good you are at LinkedIn. It will give you a report. And literally everybody I connect with on LinkedIn goes through my LinkedIn Health Check. I see the results of their scores. I can then pick and choose the ones that I want to follow up and say, look, your profile's really good, but you're pretty rubbish at networking and the content is the wrong. Is that something you'd like help with? And they say, yes, Phil, how much do you charge? Broadly speaking, that's what happens. So these are just examples of other themes that you might want to think about as well. Financial fitness, readiness for retirement. You don't have to call it a scorecard. You can call it a calculator. You can call it a quiz. Retirement mindset, money instincts, investment sophistication identifier. That sounds a bit of a mouthful, but there you go. So these are all the sort of areas that you could focus on. Here's my LinkedIn Health Check. This is what it looks like on the screen. And I've even got one that's just aimed at financial advisors. You know, pretty well every financial advisor is on LinkedIn. Most financial advisors are not getting leads from LinkedIn. I can show them how to do that. First thing I do is to find out how good they are at LinkedIn. So I put them through my LinkedIn Health Check. Take our free online test to learn how to attract more of your ideal clients. That's it. That's the homepage. And at the end, I give them a copy of my book, or I can get you don't have to give them anything, but I do. It just makes the experience a little more exciting. These are the categories of questions that I ask people about. What's your LinkedIn strategy? Have you done this, that, and the other on your profile? How do you communicate with people? These are my categories. These are sort of questions that I ask people. Have you got a LinkedIn strategy? Yes or no. Have you completed the skills section? Yes or no. And people go through this and they get their score. The questions look quite nice. This is the kind of vibe that the questions look like. And there's a completion bar at the bottom. And those are good questions. Simple yes, no questions. Scorecards don't work if you ask questions that are too long, too complicated, or too intrusive. Do not ask them, do you need an IFA? Do not ask them how much money do you have invested, because they will bail out straight away. The idea is we want people to go through the scorecard to get their score because they're curious. They want to get their report so that they get value from you, but then you follow them up. If you have a niche market, even better. So if you focus on heart surgeons, dentists, policemen, people nearing retirement, then your scorecard will be even more powerful as well. The results page is personalized to them. It will give them a score. It will give them category scores. And what you get on the other side is their name, their email address, the phone, where they heard about it, questions, answers to all the questions. A phenomenal amount of data that you get, and you see their categories of scores as well. Now, what's interesting is you as the financial advisor, it doesn't matter what score they get. The score is only of value to them. What matters to you is the fact that they went through it and the answers to the questions. That's what really matters. So let me give you one example of a financial planner, and I'll show you his scorecard in just a second, he's really into behavioral economics. And he's got a scorecard that asks people about their behavior, because we all know that how we behave can influence our investment returns. You know, do we buy at the wrong time? Do we sell at the wrong time? And two of his questions are quite interesting. And one of the questions in his scorecard is, could you live off 80% of your current income? Yes or no? Further down the scorecard, there's another question that says, could you save 20% of your current income? Now, in many ways, that's the same question. But what he finds is people always contradict themselves. They say, no, I couldn't live off 80% of my income, but yeah, I could save 20% of my income. So he can see that in the results, which gives him just a brilliant talking point when he follows it up. How you follow it up is entirely up to you. There's an automated email that goes up. If you want your CRM system to do it, you can do that as well. It's entirely up to you. But the fact that you've got answers to questions means you can pick on certain aspects and follow them up in a highly personalized way. And you can literally decide, do I want this client or do I not want this client? And this is how, broadly speaking, you follow it up. I see that you're really good at this. You've scored pretty well in this category, but you're not so good at this. Is that something you'd like some help with? And what most financial advisors are finding who have got these things is that prospects can't believe that you know them so well when you first get in touch with them. And essentially what this tool is giving you is your own market research engines, real research on people who are visiting your website. And so once you've got all that data, and we haven't really got time for this today, is you can do all sorts of things with that data. You can see trends happening in the data, you can segment the data, you can follow up some people one way, follow up other people another way, add people to your newsletter list, invite some people to your next webinar. You can do all sorts of different things. It's a brilliant tool for internal training because all this data is coming through. Maybe you've got a new recruits just come on board. You could show them some of the scorecard results and say, look, have a look at these 5 people who've been through our scorecard. How would you follow them up? Different things like that as well. So the data that comes in, you can use that data in a variety of different other ways. You could use the data to inform your newsletters. It may well be that you spot that certain people say certain things, give certain answers. Now you could use that information in a variety of different other marketing activities that you do. You could use this. So I spoke to another financial planner 2 or 3 days ago. She said, we've got plenty of inquiries already coming in because we've got a great relationship with a firm of accountants. He said, but the way they refer the leads into us was we still got to go and find out more information. He said, could I have a scorecard that our accountancy connections filter all their clients through? Answer, yes, you can. And you could co-brand it with their thing as well. And you can also encourage people, once they've gone through the scorecard, most people enjoy the process, encourage them to share the link to the scorecard. So you could pick up other leads as well. There's also, we don't know this yet because scorecards are still relatively new, but if someone's thinking to buy your financial advice business and you can show them that you've got a tool that extracts phenomenal amounts of data, you've got your own lead gen tool, they're going to want to pay more for that business. No question about it. Yeah. And there's a whole bunch of other things that you can do. And let me just pick on the third one there. The financial planner I was talking to yesterday said, goodness me, annual reviews get really dull. She said, could I use a scorecard as the benchmark, as the baseline for our annual reviews? Yes, you could. You could put every client, whoever goes through your scorecard, through your scorecard every single year. So although I pitched this as a lead gen tool, it has all sorts of other uses as well. One particular financial planner I know, he puts every new client, regardless of the source of his leads, his new clients, he puts them through as part of his onboarding process. So there's a whole bunch of other things you can do with it. So with a tool that's this good, you really have got to promote it. You've really got to show it off. And when I work with advisors on putting together a scorecard, we do a separate marketing session to show you different ways that you should promote it. Rather than have this thing just sitting there, show it off, promote it, run Facebook ads to it, mention it at the end of your seminar, mention it at the end of your webinar, mention it in your out of office email, mention it everywhere. Other places you could mention it as well. I mean, this is just made, if you're a financial advisor that does seminars, get everyone sitting in the room to go through this. When I'm going back into live speaking and I'm speaking to 1,000 financial advisors at some conference, I'm going to make my scorecard part of the presentation. Only takes people 2 minutes to go through it. I will pick up the name and email address of every single financial advisor in the room. And that's powerful. I mean, LinkedIn alone, this is amazing. There are 24 separate places on LinkedIn where you can promote your scorecard. 24 different ones. Here's a couple of examples of what you might want to do. Maybe you're using Instagram to promote your scorecard. Could you unlock a more comfortable retirement? It might look something like this. Are you financially and emotionally ready for retirement? So Instagram stories, LinkedIn stories. Yes, you can do stories on LinkedIn, Facebook stories, or do something similar for Instagram. Anywhere that you believe your target market is hanging out, start promoting your scorecard. So it's not a marketing tool on its own, it's an asset of your business. And let's just start to sum up before we say goodbye. It gives your website visitors instant value. It gives them a personalized report based on their personal situation. It's proof of your expertise. It's a lead generation tool enabling you to choose who you want to follow up. It enables you to understand each prospect as an individual and follow them up with highly personalized messaging and no more reliance on marketing that's running out of steam. They're essentially pre-filling a fact find. That's like the Holy Grail. And what you're doing is giving them exceptional value before you ever meet them for the first time. And suddenly your website starts working. You turn it from a brochure into something that's really powerful. Does this work? Well, during lockdown, I've been doing most of my presentations on Zoom, and just one example, I did a presentation to Schroders Personal Wealth. There were 125 of their IFAs on this call. I did an hour and a half on how to use LinkedIn. I said, stick around to the end and I'll give you a link to my LinkedIn health check for financial advisors. I gave the link. We said goodbye. I went to make a cup of coffee, came back 10 minutes later, and there's 97 leads from financial advisors sitting in my inbox. 97. Now, there's no way I can deal with 97. So what I'm going to do is go for the ones that I believe I can offer most value to, and I will follow them. Every single one of them goes on my newsletter list. Every single one of them goes on my webinar list as well. 97 leads in 12 minutes it was. If a scorecard doesn't work, there's usually a variety of different reasons. There's no theme. People are bailing out questions because the questions are too hard, too difficult. The look and feel of it isn't quite right, and it's not creating enough curiosity. So what you should do is when you get your scorecard going, you need to test it. You need to go through it yourself as if you were different type of prospect scenarios. You need your family members. They'll give you brutal honesty about it, a few close friends, and you also want to run it through a few clients who you get on really well with. Just approach them and say, look, this is something new that we're introducing. Could you go through it? Tell me what you think. Is there anything I could improve on? What have I missed out? So you want this thing to work. If this thing is this good, you want it to work. So you want to test it as well. So as one financial advisor said to me quite recently, how do I get my hands on one of these? There are 4 different ways to do that. And I'll just show you a couple of screenshots of financial advisor ones. These 2 are bespoke builds that are done for financial planner. Discover your retirement readiness score. Are you financially ready for retirement? Find out in 10 minutes. How financially fit are you? That sort of thing. So you can do it yourself. I can just give you a link to the software and you can do it yourself. I promise you it'll take you a month of Sundays to do it. You can do it yourself and I can train you how to do it so that you get there a bit faster. I have a couple of ready-made scorecards, and I'll give you a link to one in a minute that you can just go through yourself, that are off the shelf, and you can have it live in a couple of days. And there's also the fully bespoke one that's fully customized to your business that looks like your current website as well. So a couple of screenshots there. Here's another one. The one on the left, that is an off-the-shelf later life lending one. Could you unlock an even better retirement? So all the questions are around about equity release and whether or not it's appropriate to you. And it is honest. If it says, if the answers to the questions show that you are not relevant for equity release, it says, no, you are not appropriate for equity release at this time. Another one on the right, and here's the guy who does the behavioral economics one as well, a guy called Mike Legasic. Discover your unique saver behavior score, understand what drives your decision making and behavior around money. And Mike is the guy that says he's been using it, he's been blown away at the client data which it creates. It's now an absolute must as part of his onboarding process. So here's a ready-made one for financial advisors. And if you would like to go to this link when we finish, which is pretty well now, you can actually have a go through this. And so you can experience it yourself and pretend that you're a particular prospect, a particular type of client, and just go through it, just experience it for yourself. So you'll see the homepage, you'll see the questions, you'll see the question categories, you can answer the questions, and you'll see the report that you get at the end. And I will be able to see that you've been through it, and I will then send you a copy of this book. I'll send you the PDF copy of how to use scorecards in your business as well. And just give it a go, see what you think for yourself. If you like the idea of it and you want to talk further, then just get in touch. It's as simple as that. But it's important that you try one out for yourself so that you can experience it. But what I just love, just to finish up, is this was turned into this. It's the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. And I just love the way this old school idea has been brought kicking and screaming up to date and really works well in the modern age. So if anybody's got any questions, I probably chucked more than I should have done at you, but if anyone's got any questions right now, please do shout. It would be great to talk to you. But here's a reminder of that particular link. Go have a go at it, see what you think, and you can try it out for yourself.